Hey guys, it's your girl DJ Sims and I'm here with DJ Limelight for the Culture Podcast, and today is very, very special because we have an amazing guest with us who's been in the Punjabi music industry for a very long time, and we're really excited to have him here today. He goes by the name of BEE2.
Yes. Thank you guys, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, man, we thought it was a good time for you to come up on here.
Oh, perfect.
Obviously, you and me met the other day for the first time up on my radio show. And I was like, you know what? I really like what you're doing. You have a very unique story and a very unique edge to what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
How's life treating you first and foremost?
Good, man. We're surviving in the game. That's the main thing. Still making music, still doing shows. So that's, life is exciting in that sense, always.
And for like a lot of people who might not know how you first started off, because you've been in the game for a long time, and I think it's a really interesting story. So for how you got into music, how you started playing the tumbi, because that's what you're known for as well. So how did that journey start for you?
So the tumbi journey actually started at a very, very young age, which was like I was about 7 years old when I actually wanted, I actually heard one of my uncles playing the tumbi. And I couldn't actually get a tumbi from anywhere. Like I was too young to even go out and get a tumbi. But I was telling my older sister, I said, "Look, get me a tumbi. I really, really want a tumbi." And she took me to being a musical in Southall, which was the only musical shop I think in all of London at that time. That was the only one that we knew about, and we even went there, and even they didn't hear of a tumbi. They said, "What is a tumbi?" Like, we could get you a tabla, get you this, get you that, but what is a tumbi? It was one of those instruments. They were more classical music instruments that they were specialised in. So I was just like playing on a stick with a rubber band. I used to just mimic playing a tumbi for ages, and then finally they actually got one from India. They were the first people that actually got one. They said, "Look, when our next shipment comes in, we'll get a tumbi." And every month we used to ask them, "Have you got one yet? Have you got one yet?" A couple of months went by, a year went by, and they actually got one in. And my sister bought me a tumbi, and that's it. It just I've never let it go. It's been like, over 20, 30 years now. Just been playing the tumbi every day. I just love that instrument. It was just that sound that when I heard it in folk music, because in my house, we used to live in a joint family with my uncle, my older uncle, my taya, so their family, our family, and he used to have a lot of vinyls, old Kuldeep Manak, Muhammad Sadiq, Chamkila, any vinyl, any soundtrack that you would hear back in those days of Punjabi folk music, it would have a tumbi in it. So but I never saw that instrument until my uncle played it, in a mehfil at home. And since then, wow, when I got that instrument, just like every song I used to slow the vinyl down, try to mimic the sound, try to tune it, and then just... Yeah, that was the journey just of the tumbi.
That's the foundation.
Yeah, that was the foundation. And then at 14, 15, I joined a Bhangra group, which I was a tumbi player and singer for. So then they started training me up on how to sing folk songs and how to pronounce it, because my pronunciation was totally, I didn't have no pronunciation like that. Punjabi was just a ha, tonki, yanji.
That's like me now.
Yeah. So they they said, "Look, you can play the tumbi, but sing is as well. It'll be a good touch because you're born here." So, and they really encouraged me. The great Indian dancers from Southall. So that's where I was born and bred, in Southall. So then they encouraged me, took me to my right teacher, who started teaching me how to sing. So from there, the journey just went on, and it's just been...
Everything just evolved.
Evolved, yeah. And I was everything fell in place when I was involved in music. And anything else I try to do, I used to fail in. So if I try to do some other kind of business, or try to study, and even study a different course. And first when I went to uni, I went to do a computing course or something like that. Because that's what everyone around me was trying to encourage me to do. That's the right path to do, become an IT engineer, this, that, whatnot. But again, I failed. And then when I did my course in sound engineering and music technology in Guildhall, I passed with flying colours. So everything in my life that I'd done with music, it kept me on the right, kept me on the right path, and I succeeded in it. And even earlier on, behind the podcast when we were talking, to stay relevant and to stay making money and using music as a profession, is really hard in this game. And I'm like, you know, you were saying, you know, even you struggled, and you know, you're doing the same thing. You know, this is your profession. It's really, really hard because a lot of other musicians and people in this game have to do other things, have to do other jobs to survive, because it's a hard game to make money out.
No, of course. I think it's like everyone has their own circumstances, but we'll talk more about the grind in a moment. But the tumbi, I feel like it's such a story in itself, because it looks like such a simple instrument. You know, it looks quite basic, but the sounds are very unique.
Yeah.
I find a lot of hip hop producers wanting to sample tumbis, and they go looking for art, you know, people that can play it all the time. I mean, that must be something that you've come across in your career.
Yeah. I've done loads of recordings for like hip hop artists. Even when America, they took me to Truth, what are they called? Truth Hurts or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they their albums, I've done a lot of recordings with the Cray Twins. We all went down, and they actually wanted just a tumbi player, because at that time, Monday the Baj Ke Rahe just blew up. So everybody was looking for that sound. So I did loads of recordings for even BBC and all that. We did so many. And that, like you said, that instrument it looks simple, but is so not simple.
Yeah.
You know, even when I was learning it for years, then I realized that I was playing it wrong all my whole, you know, for that many years. Then I started getting, you know, then luckily my family, we used to always go travel to India a lot. So then I found a teacher there, started learning tumbi from him. My Ustad, who was from Jangpur, who actually then taught me how to play the tumbi to the next level, the one that I play now with the threats and all that. That is called a Suramali tumbi. So then he's the actual guy that invented that tumbi. So
Crazy.
Then I learned from him. I learned from the master that actually invented it. He's not here now in this world, but he gave me a gift that, you know, I could have, you know, couldn't get from anyone. From the actual guy that invented that actual tumbi, that style of tumbi. He actually taught me how to play it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you know, so
I mean, that's a blessing in itself. And you know, some of the biggest tunes in the world have had a tumbi sound in it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and that is a blessing in, you know, in itself, for you to you know, be able to play that.
Yeah. And to learn it from the masters, you know. And even I learned
how important do you think it is for Punjabis to learn from, like, not just when it comes to playing instruments, but also vocals? Because I always find when I meet, you know, vocalists that are amazing, they always emphasize how they were taught and how important it was to learn from certain people.
Very good question.
That must have played a big part in your life.
Very good question. Very, very good question. And I had this conversation not long ago. And I'm going to tell you that this is actually quite, because I actually agree with what you say, but then I disagreed with what I believe in at a point, because what I strongly believe that you got to learn, right? And I took a lot from learning from these ustads. Like, I learned from different people, and learning scales and learning semi-classical music. I'm not going to say classical music because that goes really deep, but I understand classical music because I recorded it in my studios, and with UK Bhangra studios, I've been an engineer for him for many years. So I recorded a lot of classical instruments. So I understand classical music and classical rags. And then I was sitting with Karan Aujla not too long ago. And, you know, we pulled out the harmonium, and we've done a few things. And he goes, "Fuck," he said, "Bruv," he goes, "I just don't know that." He goes, "That's the shit that I missed out on." He goes, "I don't know how to play the harmonium. I don't know how to do rags. I don't know." I said, "You know what? Don't change it." I said, you're gifted in a different way. I go, don't get caught up in these laws. These are laws in a certain way, that this is the scale you have to play. And sometimes even that we're trying to break out of those laws, we can't. Oh no, this is that composition, but if I do this key in it, it's going to go wrong. It's actually not right. It's not correct. But that's not the way I was taught. But actually, these guys are doing it that way. They're just doing it whatever's coming to them. They're not following any composition or any rag or any scale. They just it's a feeling, and it's working.
Do you think that's down to also a generation thing? Because times have changed.
Times have changed. Yeah, and that's what I said to him. I said, "Look, don't even waste your time. You are doing whatever you're doing. You're hitting. You're bringing out hits. Just concentrate on that, and you're correct, man." I go, "Don't worry about learning." And you know, you can say, "Oh man, I haven't got that story." That's what you were saying. You say, "I haven't got that story." Who I learned from?
It's not his story though.
Yeah,
it's someone else's story. It's a different time. Right?
Yeah, I said, "Now it's your time. Is what you're doing now."
But it's quite interesting because the evolution, I think, of Punjabi music has definitely grown so much. And I think even that example itself, like now the sound is so different, but I feel like you've seen the evolution and you've obviously come from like the origins of it as well. So what do you think of the sound now and keeping up with times and how important that is?
I think it's very, very important because it's all about the audience. It's not about us. It's not about me. It's not about the music, really. It's not about Punjabi music either, really. It's about what the audience are listening to and what they want. And that's why, like, every artist should not say, oh, you know, it's hard to let go because it was so hard to learn what I learned. And then I have to let go of it because no one wants to hear it. So it's really hard. That's the hard part. So that's what people get stuck in. A lot of artists get stuck in. They say, oh, but that, you know, people are listening to him and he can't even sing in key. But it's not about him singing in key. He's got a feel. He's got something that people are connecting to. And that's what we need to learn. We, as any artist, we need to connect with the audience. And as long as we are connecting, we'll survive. Otherwise, we ain't going to survive.
Yeah, man. And that's not just artists. Even as DJs, myself and Sims can both vouch for that. I mean, we have to cater for the audience. And we have to know what's working with the audience and what they like.
That's right, with the latest trends, with what's going on, and and your job's really hard because you're like every day something new's coming out.
I'll be honest with you. I think we have the easier end of the stick. To be honest, I think the artists have the tricky part because once you do something, it can technically stick with you and it can technically stain you.
Yes,
if it doesn't really hit, but you tried something different. DJs can try something. If it doesn't work, we just go back to what we know. Or we just switch, right? We go back to what we know and we kind of get away with it that way. But I do think like our job is to go places and play you guys' music. And you guys have to make the music. So it's like that balance I feel like is tricky for artists, especially with things like TikTok, because we spoke earlier about how much TikTok has, you know, helped your career, especially during lockdown times. We're talking 2020 to 2022. What was that time like for you?
You know what? It was, for me, personally, it was actually really good, right? Because as an artist, like if you're sitting at home and you're not, and everyone needs space to think so you can create. But we don't ever get that space because you don't want to sit quietly because you think, shit, if I'm sitting quietly, next man's working, I can't. Because he's going to be out there working or she's going to be out there working, creating something new, and I can't have that time. No, I've got to do great. So you're trying to do that and you're stuck in that. In that time, in that lockdown time, everybody was sitting there. So there was no competition. There was not that, oh, that person's out or that person's doing that or that. It was just, you're just sitting there, everyone's sitting there, and it's time to actually shut up and just think. And that's when I actually even opened up Instagram and TikTok. I had the accounts, but it was just, I'll just post on there whenever I get a chance. Or whenever I'm like sitting on the toilet and I'm not doing nothing else, post something on Instagram or do something on TikTok. But that time, I actually sat down and thought, right, let's study this. What are people liking? What are people following? What's the trends? That's when I started looking into that as well. So it was a good time for me to connect with social media, which was really good for me. Right, which when it came out of lockdown, people when I met my audience, they were already familiar with me still. Like, oh no, we saw that little video that you done, we saw that skit that you done, the acting one, and we saw that tumbi skit that you done, and it was great. And so it was like I was still connected with them, which I didn't really realize I was really connecting with them.
Yeah, of course.
You know? And then I realized that, oh my God, this is more powerful than anything right now. Social media is the next audience now. This is the audience. So, you know, just it was a good time for me. I actually enjoyed it, to be honest.
Do you find that people from your generation, a lot of them have fallen off?
They fell off at that time
because they never adapted to what was going on. Because even Sims during lockdown, she really made a career from being in lockdown and being on TikTok and being active. We can say that, right?
Yeah. Embracing.
That's when I saw her as well. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
I think just embracing the fact that like you have a platform in front of you, and if you use it correctly, I mean, that's how I started my career essentially. And for you used it correctly to, I guess, stay relevant.
Relevant, that's right. That's right. No, so, you know, like you said, even before the lockdown, because, you know, I've also had my studios for the last 20 odd years as well, making music for other people, making music videos for other people. You see a lot of artists come and go. They come and they're so passionate, but then they don't see the money, they don't see the fame, and then they just go off. And I always explain to them, it ain't going to happen overnight. And you've got to, you know, you've got to be consistent. You can't just do a couple of albums, and even a couple of 2-3 albums, you know, but people, you know, you can't blame them, because they're probably thinking, why am I sinking so much money into this? Because it costs a lot of money to make an album, to make music videos, to get it out there then. And then at that time, when there was, like now it's more easier, because you can just put your own music out there now. You don't need a record label. At that time, you needed a record label, right? And then you've had to make your own videos, you had to make your album. And then when you got your record label, then they will say, all right, we'll release it, but then you want it on ZTV or British, and then they need money. Then they will ask you for money. So by the time, like, you know, their bank loan that they've taken out to do this thing, it's bankrupting them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then when they're comparing themselves to other people, because it naturally happens, you do watch what other people do.
Yeah.
You look at someone like Imran Khan, for example. Yeah. He's still getting shows till this day off one album.
One album.
From 2009.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're talking a 16 years legacy off one album.
Yes.
That still gets
Amplifier.
him booked, still gets him paid. Probably gets him paid more now than ever before.
Yeah.
You know, he's literally aged like fine wine.
Yeah. And he doesn't even he doesn't even release much.
He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. And he's really, like, you know, that's amazing what he's doing. Yeah. And he's still just doing the shows consistently, just going on.
Do you feel like Punjabi music at the stage it's at now is going more global and mainstream and hitting places it's never seen before?
Big time, yeah. Thanks to people like Diljit and Karan and even late Musawala and, you know, all these great artists, AP. You know, these guys have taken it to another level, another global level. It's because of their sound. Their sound is, their sound isn't Punjabi, if you know what I mean. The music is, I mean, the song is Punjabi, but the sound is universal. This is something key that I think that's really good that's happened, because we kept on thinking, they broke that boundary. So, you know, we kept on thinking, you know, if you ain't got Tol or Tumbi in your song, it's not Punjabi. Let's start there. So we were just stuck in that box there. Forget anything else. That is where it, you know, was. And then now they've done it in a sense where the sound can be anything. Yeah. It could be salsa, it could be reggae, whatever you want to make it to, right? But we're gonna sing a flow, and the song, even the lyrics are Punjabi. That's all it is. But even the compositions are not Punjabi. They're all different. They're unique. They're just fitting the music. So now they've taken. So that is really easy for anyone to listen to.
Definitely, and I also think that. You know, the generation before, the older generation, kind of put themselves through this unnecessary headache of this. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to say it's like ego. Yeah. I think a lot of it comes down to ego, that, you know, you have to have this or you have to have that, and you can't do this and you can't do that. And what happens is a kid will come along and do everything that you said you couldn't and take over. And I originally come from doing UK rap. Right. So I've seen that evolve. Yeah. And I've seen how the olders got left behind and became very bitter towards new artists coming through. And it took them a long time to understand that actually the world changes, the world moves on. Of course. And if you don't move with the world, you get left behind. Of course. Yeah. And I actually think it's a great thing to see right now. That, you know, but at the same time, it's also great to see that there are a certain group of older artists, older generations, you know, like, I don't know, say someone like even a Jazzy B, who gets appreciated more now, but as an older artist, you know, you see him come out on stage with AP before, or Karen Ojla, you know, on an international show. That's right, and that's amazing to see too. And you know, you mentioned Sidhu Moosewala a minute ago. Let's talk about the impact he's had in the game. Obviously, rest in peace. he's no longer here, but his collection of music will live on forever.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what was your opinion of him when he first came out? What's your opinion of him right now? What kind of impact do you think he's had on the Punjabi, not just the music scene, but the community around the world?
I think, you know what, there's all, like, I'm just going to mention again Imran Khan as well. There's a few people like this come, like Imran Khan, Musiwala, and a few other sounds that come that are game changers, that are completely new. Amplifier was completely out of the norm. It was like, what the hell is this? Like, at that time, you know, and that triggered a sound of music, didn't it? Like,
$1,000,000%.
At that time, a different sort of, it was totally different before that.
$1,000,000%.
And then, like, Musiwala came, he triggered that gangster rap type of Punjabi music, hip hop style, which then all sort of came in. You know, before that, we had that hip hop sort of thing happening with Bohemia and Yo-Yo Hill, and they were doing it, but he went dark, like that dark hip hop gangster thing. So it was a total different genre of music that came in. So when these things happen, when these kind of sounds come in, they are the ones that are going to stay forever, you know. And it's sad what's happened, you know. Even at that time, yeah, when he came out, I thought, nah, man, is this really going to work? You know, Fly Karde, the song that they done, Uchi Ani Galla Meri Yaar Diyan na.
So High.
So High, that's it. You know, I thought, is that going to work, really? And, you know, I even was talking to Gippy Gariwal as well recently. We was having a conversation and I even said to him, I said, you know, you guys picked that up on Humble, that's his label. You guys picked that up and like plugged that hard. Like, for you guys from India that, you know, were still in a different sound, this sound came all of a sudden. This was like Canadian sort of UK thing. If it popped over there, I would understand. Then you guys would pick it up. But you guys picked it up beforehand and sort of launched that sound. And he goes, I don't know what it was a risk. But even we thought this is just something so different. It might just click, it might not, but let's take the risk on it. You know, they invested a lot of money into, like, you know, pushing that song out, and it just blew up, and it just started a whole new.
Yeah, what I particularly really liked about the beginning stages of Sidhu was the image.
Yeah,
that it showed that you don't have to have a certain image to be accepted.
Yeah.
In you know, within our people in terms of the music, but also, you know, I've always been keen on the underdogs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I always feel
he was promoting that. There was no drip on. There's no, you know, he was just straight how he is.
Yeah.
I'm just wearing a shirt and some like baggy jeans. I don't care. But this is what it is. Is what I'm saying. Listen to that. He was so like plain and simple.
Yeah, definitely.
It was almost hard to watch. Like, no, man, just put something on, man. Put some glasses on, or put some gold teeth in, or something like that. But it was, you know, and he rocked it hard, and then he showed it over the years that he was, you know,
authentic. It's the authenticity.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of artists were definitely inspired
Yes.
by him. A lot of like the new ones that are coming up, or, you know, came up at that time, were definitely inspired by that sound.
Yeah. No, 100%. And
I feel like a lot of people, especially the new gen that are coming through, they're not scared to admit that they've been influenced by him, and that's real important. To be real grateful of what door got opened in that situation. Yeah. And obviously he was gone way too soon, because I feel like there's probably a hard drive somewhere with at least 100 records.
Oh yeah, easily, because that guy was just writing. It wasn't a job or chore, or he didn't try it. It was just flowing. He was just coming out. He just sit here and he started writing, and it was just crazy. But then when I met him a few times, like, you know, it was just his character was so different off screen. You know what I mean? It was just, he was so humble. He was so, you know, he's just really genuine, like really quiet. You know, just a shy person. But when he was on screen, he was just he was like an animal. Like, come on, man, there's no one bigger or better than me. I am here now.
Yeah, and I think it's important that people have that kind of confidence when they're stepping out on stage and when they're making music.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the UK scene right now, because we feel like, you know, you've...
What scene, man? Do we even have a scene?
Right. I mean, these are the questions we wanted to ask. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been in the game a very long time. So for you to talk about it, I feel like it's coming from a place of personal experiences and credibility. Where do you think the UK is right now? But also, where do you think the Desi scene or the South Asian scene or Punjabi scene is right now in a global scale as well?
You know what? The UK scene, if we were talking about UK, things move about. You know, the trends move about. We have got a great talent here in the UK. Yeah, things are going to come out in slowly, dribs and drabs. Yeah, but we will always have talent. We are the hub of Bhangra music for a start. We are where it all happened. When we are us as myself and our generation, obviously Sims is so much younger than us, so she's in a total different. She'll see different things the way we see it. You know, when we were listening to Punjabi music, Bhangra music, all those artists, those bands, they were from back home. They were from they had the language, right? So they had that at least when they came. So they had something to start with. They made this thing called Bhangra music. They introduced Western instruments to folk music and became Bhangra music. That's them, all the Hira groups, Alabs, the Malki Singhs. They done a massive movement. Then it's us guys. We are the first. I'm the first generation British-born Punjabi singers. Yeah, that are born here. So when we were trying to make music, so there was still no industry. There was no proper studios. There was no proper there was labels. Yeah, there were labels, but everybody was just, there was no union or there was no nothing. There was no proper thing. It was really still quite hard. But we were trying to build something on what they had already done, but we never had the language. We couldn't write properly, or we couldn't play properly because there's no one teaching that music, the tumbi, or I had to learn myself. I had to go to India to learn. I had to learn Punjabi from other people, the different sources, or I had to learn. So and then we made a good thing out of it. We've passed, but you know, now we've come to the next generation, where now people are gonna. Now the best thing we've got is, like we said, we don't need a label now. We don't need a TV channel. We don't need radio station now. If you've got talent, you can promote it yourself on social media. And this is what I want to sort of really encourage the new singers and the new DJs and the new podcasters and presenters as well, our Asians that are coming up, the South Asians, is that use these platforms more. That don't just, I think they're underestimating the power of this social media at the moment, right? Because they haven't seen the struggles that we saw, how hard it was that we had to beg labels to take first our album, and then we had to beg the TV stations, radio stations to play the album, and then we had to after doing all that begging our parents for the money to actually make the album first to get into a recording studio and all sorts, right? And then it doesn't work. You know, then that's when people get disheartened, right? So now you've got so much, you can try so much. You can, like, you know, if there's something that's not working, you take it off your reels, bam, next thing. Use these platforms, because now you don't need no one. It's all about your own talent. So now you don't need to rely on anybody else, and you can't. No one can even say, oh yeah, because that radio station, you know, backed him, that's why that was a hit, or that TV station backed him, that's why it was a hit. Nah. Now it's all about your talent. That's what really counts now. And now another thing as well, the new generation are not stupid. They are clued on so much more. If it sounds good, it sounds good. They don't care if you've been in the game for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years or 2 minutes. If it sounds good, it's going to click. Facts. If it doesn't, see you later.
Yeah.
So that's another good thing as well.
Because you see some of a lot of the old school lot getting booked up for uni gigs and shows with like younger audiences, and they really appreciate. They're
appreciating
authentic history when it comes to their people,
and that's a good thing as well. That's such a good thing. All these nights that are happening, that are promoting the old school bands. One thing, okay, you could say, that's a completely different sound that people, those generations are listening to. But because whoever the promoters are, whoever those teams are that are bringing them forward, it's a brilliant thing. It's a brilliant thing because they are using talent that we have that are sitting there that wouldn't get a chance to be on stage anymore. They've seen that and say, right, they are still able to do it. Bring them on, and we'll archive this as well now with the newer generation, and they'll even see it. It doesn't matter even if those guys that are at those shows listen to that music again when they go home, but it's about them enjoying that feel at that time, which is really important. And that, I mean, how do you feel? Because when you were growing up, you probably never saw that band era.
I think it's interesting because at this stage, like, years later, like I'm literally 22, I'm literally, as a DJ, I'm playing these songs for student nights, for example, and it goes off. It goes off because people appreciate like Bhangra music, Punjabi, old Punjabi music, and like it's essentially like their roots, and maybe like they were just about being born when the song came out, but it's not that people don't know about these songs.
Okay.
I mean, it has the sound.
It'll have a ring. They'll hear it somewhere. It
has the sound. So it still goes off. And
no
it's so
one
good to see.
No one's done that. No one's done that in the whole world. India's never done that. Punjab's never done that for their old singers that are sitting there. They weren't. Well, I shouldn't say they're just sitting there like rotting away or something. I'm making them sound bad. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying just out of respect or anything. Whoever's like you guys that have done this I think is brilliant. It's really, really good. And I don't know if Canada, they've ever done it for their singers that are the senior singers or legends, or Punjab definitely hasn't done it. I've never seen them do it. So this is something that the UK has done for their own music, for their own bands, for their own history, the legends that are living in their country. They've brought them back on stage for the newer generation. Bam, here you go.
Nah, the older generation definitely get embraced a lot more here. What also gets embraced a lot here is movies and acting, and that's something that you're big on as well. I mean, you're an actor, and you obviously make movies as well. I mean, how did that all start for you?
So I've always wanted to do movies from a very young age. So when I started in the music game, and I started making, obviously we started from the studio, it led to becoming a record label, because people were coming in the studio and they were making an album, and then they wouldn't get a deal for ages. And by the time they would get a deal, that sound would go out. It would go out of fashion. Something else would come in. So there was quite a struggle going on there with the artists that we were producing. So then I said, right, we've got to cut that out of the picture. Let's start our own label up. People that come to our studio, we'll offer them this as well, where we can release their stuff, right? And get their albums made, get their CDs. So at that time, it was cassettes, right? When I started, vinyl just had gone out. So cassettes and CDs were still in. So that's what was the in thing. So we started doing that. And then obviously it was a question where it was hard to make music videos. There wasn't enough music video producers. Then I started doing that. So we said, right, with the label, we'll start doing the music video production. Crazy. So when we started doing the music video production, I always had we started doing it from our own ones. We were doing our own ones first. And then people really liked my videos of what I was doing. So they said, we want to make a video like do something what you're doing, how make it comedy or make a little movie out of it. Because I liked the acting side of things. So I always had a sort of filmy, sort of acting sort of element to my videos. So they started liking that. So it started making a lot of videos. Then I started getting more experience around, directing and things like that. Then obviously Punjabi films kicked off. And I was always wanted, before even the Punjabi film scene sort of kicked off, I really wanted to make a movie. Because I used to love Easter's East. That was the only film that we had. And then after that, Bargy on the Beach, and then Bend It Like Beckham came on, and I thought, oh man, I need to get
you want to do something like that.
Yeah, that was I had that in my mind already. And I just never, because making a film it's all about funding. It's about big budget. You got to make something decent. And it's so, when you're making great music videos, it's such a different film game. And then when they started making Punjabi music, when now this time has come where it really sort of kicked off. And there was a lot of Punjabi films getting made over here in the UK. That's when when I got approached, because they wanted somebody, they wanted UK actors. So I featured in quite a few films like Koka with Neeru Bajwa, played a boss, and then Gippy's film Karyan Jatta 3, Moja Moja, and all these films that were the Punjabi films that were made over here. I had a little feature part in them. And then obviously I connected with the teams over there, and then spoke to other people. I said, look, I need to make a film, but if I make that film with the crew and cast over here, it's going to cost me a lot of money. I need a crew from India that will sort of fit the budget. And luckily what happened was when Karyan Jatta was getting made, Karyan Jatta 3 was getting made, they were going to make Moja Moja straight after that. But they had a month gap because Gippy had to fly back to India for another shoot. So even, I was just in a conversation, I was there when they were having a conversation that, oh man, how are we going to fly the whole crew back and then bring them all back again? We can't even leave them here because they just cost us money leaving them here.
Yeah.
And if we sort of fly them back, and it's going to cost us even more money. I said, look, I've got a film that I want to shoot. Let me use your team. So then I'll cover the costs and everything for that. So I struck a deal with them guys, kept the team here. And then obviously that helped me shoot my film, which was Big Trouble in Little India. So we shot that film, done that, and it was a great film. It was a first film, you know. Obviously, I know what I sort of could have done better and things like that. But everyone said, it was a great film. Cineworld took it up as an exclusive, so they released it in all the Asian areas in Cineworld. So the film toured the cinema sort of scene. Yeah. And now we're just wrapping that film up for a digital, online, not online, but like a streaming platform. So we're just making a deal with that, sort of dubbing in different languages.
Sick.
And just finalising that. And yeah, we're going to start on to the next ones.
That's really cool. I feel like your journey has been like so interesting to hear, even like how you got into acting. But what are you working on like at the moment, the rest of the year? What does your future plans look like?
Yeah, so we only last week actually, we shot another video. So for one of our new songs. So there's going to be a lot of music I'm going to put out this year as well. Because I feel that now, I did stop sort of putting out a lot of music. I'll tell you why, because there was that sort of gangster phase that went with gangster music and I just couldn't do it. I personally couldn't do it. I love listening to it, but I just couldn't get into that vibe.
It's not your vibe.
Yeah. And I didn't want to sort of
force it.
Yeah.
Not be
because we heard a few people forcing it and it sounded terrible.
It sounded terrible. Yeah, exactly.
It does.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Right? And that is just not my vibe, so I didn't want to do that. And I was blessed enough where my shows were still happening, so I didn't have to sort of force it. And I was just still singing the type of songs that I was doing. So I stopped sort of putting music out there. But recently, over the last few years, I feel now that it's changed now again. So with all these new sort of, people like Sukha coming out, all the new sort of sounds coming out with the new singers and things like that, things have changed. So I think, right, this is a good time now to start putting new music out there. So like last year, we've done quite a few songs. This year, we started off with Garobar that we just done, with Good Liz. Yeah. And we're doing another few songs now this year. So I'm looking forward to that. We've shot a new video. That's going to come out. We're also starting our new film, Big Wedding in Little India.
Oh, wow.
Sick. Yeah. So we've started that. So that's just getting finished on the script writing stuff. We've shot a few scenes for that. Just a few scenes that we needed to shoot because the actors were here from India. So we've done those scenes. We're just completing a few more bits on the script and we're going to crack on with that as well. So that's going to come out now, hopefully by next year.
Yeah, that's exciting stuff, man. Yeah. I mean, you sound real busy and you've been real busy and you still are, and we're happy for that.
No, thank you.
And we're excited to hear some more music from you as well, of course.
Yep.
Man, I think it's been a pleasure catching up with you, man.
No,
I think it's been an overdue catch up as well.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah, I even said when we met a few weeks back, I said, I can't believe that, because I've always known about you, and we've never just met.
We've never met.
Yeah, So, thank you for having me on that show, and obviously having me here today as well with Sims.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.